Hey, it's Tuesday, December 8th. We are, how many days would that be? 17 days until Christmas. We're 2 days until Hanukkah. The holidays are among us, about us, in front of us, and you are fat. I'm just going to throw that out there that I bet a lot of fat people have tuned in today because, frankly, I'd like to lose a few more pounds. I know during the pandemic, I've been the exception to the rule. I lost about 20 pounds during the pandemic, where I know most people have put on 20 pounds. And that's why we have my friend Dom Ricci here today, because he's going to talk to us about how to lose weight and do it smart and keep it off. How are you, Dom?
Sean, what is going on, man? So we talked about your aggressive headline when you were promoting this stuff, and then you started off this video coming in strong.
Yeah. So but it's funny. I have a friend who may be on here today. We'll see if he pops in. That he started working out recently again, and he was a real muscular guy, and he had gotten, we'll just call it rather large, and he has been dropping the weight and building on muscle and putting up videos of himself lifting and talking about 2020 his name versus 1995 his name, and how much he can't lift from what he used to lift, but how he's really getting there. And I've seen the transformation in him, even though there's a ways to go. So what have you found, Dom, during the pandemic with people putting on the pounds? Have you run into these folks?
Yeah, absolutely. Usually it comes from two different scenarios is usually what I see. Either they were going to the gym, right? The gym shut down. So now they no longer have the gym access. And now they're like, I don't want to work out at home. They have trouble getting motivated working out at home. That's one. So they're becoming much more inactive, right? The second reason is it's a lot more stressful. Right? It's a lot more stressful over time. Maybe they're working from home. They got their kids at home. The kids are being homeschooled. And so now it's like all these added stressors in their life.
Yeah.
And then some people from there, when the stress gets too high, they become emotional eaters, right? So then they start eating more, and that's where the weight comes on from there. So those are really the two scenarios that I've seen so far.
Well, and I remember the first 6 weeks of the pandemic. Well, the first 2 weeks was, everyone stay home for 2 weeks. And, people didn't like it, but they were kind of chill and they got over it. And, they went hunting for toilet paper. And then when the government said stay home for a month, for 4 weeks, I think that's when a lot of the I'm bored eating kicked in.
Right. Yeah. And it comes from an emotional place sometimes, and it all starts with just having that self-awareness. Like some people, whether they get bored, right, or whether it's stress, both the underlying is there's an emotion behind it, right? And it starts with recognizing that pattern. And like, am I getting into a pattern of eating out of boredom, or am I getting into a pattern of eating out of stress, right? And then from there, if that starts building up over time, we've been in this pandemic or this lockdown for how many months now? It's been much longer than a couple months. So, over the course of that time, some people maybe put on some weight, right?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, we all know it's different in different parts of the country. Where I live in the Louisville area, at least in southern Indiana, the gyms are open, so I can go to the gym. I take advantage of going to the gym. I like going to the gym. But you're in what, New Jersey?
I'm in New Jersey. Yep.
Can you go to the gym there?
Yeah, for now we're still open.
But I know in California it's not. So
right. Yeah, they're like totally locked down.
They're still totally locked down. So your headline on your LinkedIn profile is definitely very intriguing. Lose 25 pounds in 2 hours a week. So how does that work?
Yeah. So the first thing you've got to understand is when it comes to weight loss and just weight loss in general, nutrition is going to play the largest role when it comes to that. But you first and foremost have to figure out your nutrition, right? Nutrition is the first thing that you have to dial in when it comes to however much amount of weight that you're looking to lose. You have to look at your nutrition first, right? Then from there is when we start looking at the workouts. And so from what I found with my guys, and I work with sales guys, I work with business owners, very, very busy individuals, not guys that have a lot of time on their schedule, can't be doing the whole bodybuilding routine, working out for like 2 hours in the gym, doing like crazy cardio every single day. And so, what I had to come up from them, from my experience in sales as well, was, how can we get the most out of our workouts in the least amount of time possible?
Right.
Right. It's really just being most efficient with your workouts and with your time, right? Because when you're working in sales, right, it's a super stressful job. You have a family as well. Like, time is very valuable to you, right? But that doesn't mean to neglect your health and fitness, right? So what I try to work on with my guys and with my system is, how can we make your workouts as efficient as possible? And so the sweet spot that I found has been 2 hours a week. I mean, some guys do a little more. I got some guys doing a little more. Some guys a little less, kind of depending on their schedule. But 2 hours a week has been like the main time that I found for my guys that works on a weekly basis for them, that can still get them results.
So Sarah Uchin, also a relative, living in Nevada. Gym is a joke. No classes, no showers, no jacuzzi, no steam rooms, no lockers. And obviously they have to be masked up there while they're working out. Sari is an entrepreneur, owns Culinary Pros. So your system, will it work without a gym?
Yeah, absolutely. So I program for my guys on an individual basis, right? So whether they have a gym membership, whether they work out at home, they have a home gym, whether they have no equipment at all, doesn't matter. I program for them on an individual basis, depending on what they have.
Okay, so let's talk about nutrition first.
Sure.
So, I have gotten to the point where on nutrition, because I hate not eating what I want to eat. So right. Is your nutrition plan restrictive, or is it moderated where you can balance out, some fried chicken one day, but you got to eat a lot of apples another day? How does it work?
Right. So I place a large emphasis on the teaching aspect and the learning, right? Because, and I'll just give you some backstory. Like, I've been on all those type of restriction diets. Like, I've done the keto, I've done the paleo, I've done the intermittent fasting, I've done the low carb. Like, I would always cut out like pizza and pasta all the time. And I'm half Italian, right? So like, my family would cook Italian all the time. Yeah. And like, I was always the kid who was like, it's funny to laugh back on, but like, I was always the kid who was like, nah, like, you guys just eat the pizza without me. I'm just going to sit in the corner and have my salad. Right. And like, it was miserable, man. And I got made fun of all the time for doing stuff like that. But I never got great results doing any of that, because I could never stick to those approaches. Any of those super restrictive approaches, I found myself doing it only for a couple weeks. Yeah, maybe I would get some results, but I would never stick to it. Right. So I would never get long-term results. And for me, it wasn't really until I learned like everything about nutrition, how to structure your nutrition, how to actually incorporate those different foods, right? Like the pizza for me, like the pasta for me. Obviously, maybe it's different for you or for anyone else, but how to actually incorporate those types of food into your nutrition plan, that's when I get the best results, because now I can stick to it for the longest period of time, right? And it's still how I do my nutrition to this day. So what I focus on with my guys is actually the teaching aspect, right? And teaching them how to, go ahead.
The what aspect?
Teaching, like learning.
Learning,
from what I found is like, a lot of people just don't know how to eat in general, especially when it comes to either weight loss or whatever their goal is, right? So if I can teach them, how do we incorporate all these different foods that you enjoy, right? So for me, it was like the pizza, it was the pasta, right? I love that. Those are my two favorite foods, right? But as you know, if you eat too much of it, right, it's a lot of carbs, right? You can put on weight quite fast, right? So once you learn how to do that, and you can incorporate that into your nutrition plan, right? Well, now you can get results for a much longer period of time, right? Now once you learn how to do that and you learn how to lose weight while incorporating some of those foods, well, now you can actually keep it off, right? Because you understand what's working. And from what I've seen with a lot of people, they go on these type of restriction diets, no matter what it is, right? They're cutting out all these different foods, right? And while they may lose some weight in the beginning, once they get off the diet, if they don't know what's driving results, right, and they reincorporate those foods back into their life and they don't know how to manage them, well, the weight just comes back on, right? And
and that's the thing that my wife has always told me, that it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. Exactly. Because I've done keto. I'm a fan of intermittent fasting, probably just because I feel like if I eat breakfast first thing of the day, I just start eating all day long. So, but I have to make sure I stop eating at night if I'm going to do intermittent fasting. Otherwise, there's no point to it I'm just skipping breakfast. So when you look at the dietary and the nutrition, what are some tips that you can give people? Because they see here how to get in touch with you, and I encourage, if they think that they want to get fit and get back in shape, you should be reaching out to Dom on Facebook or on Instagram. But why don't you give people some tips as to how do they wrap around that nutritional side?
More protein. That's the first tip that I have. From what I've seen, a lot of people aren't getting in enough protein in their diet. So whether it's lean meats, yogurt, right? If you like milk, stuff like that, just getting in more protein, because what protein is very satiating, which means it's going to keep you full for longer. That's very important when you're looking to lose weight, right? Because if you're having all these hunger cravings or whatever, and you start overeating, right? Of course, your results are going to stop. Getting in more protein and more vegetables as well is really going to help you, because they're both very, very satiating. It's going to help keep you full for a lot longer period of time.
So where do potatoes come into this? Because I love potatoes. I hear you saying protein, I hear you saying vegetables, but I don't think you're counting potato as a vegetable.
Yeah, so potatoes, again, when I say vegetables, I mean more the green fibrous vegetables, because those are what's going to help. Potatoes, man, you can still incorporate potatoes into your nutrition plan. Just understand, like, depending on the type of potatoes that you eat, it's going to spike your blood sugar a lot more rapidly, right? Especially white potatoes. What you always want to do anytime you're eating a type of carbohydrate source, right, like potatoes, that gets into your system, gets into your blood sugar very fast, pair it with a protein source, because it's going to help slow down your digestion.
Oh, okay.
Right? And what happens from there is, especially with a lot of the guys that I work with, right, they're all sales guys, right? So they need a lot of energy throughout the day, right? So your energy is largely related to the rise and fall of your blood sugar, right? So let's say you're eating potatoes on your own, you get a quick spike in your blood sugar. Well,
right.
What goes up must come down, right? So an hour or two later, that's when you feel a crash, right? Also known as, like, if you've ever had sugar crashes when you were a child, just from like getting too much sugar in at once, it spikes your blood sugar, and then it comes down an hour or two later. When you pair any type of those sources, right, like your potatoes, with a protein source, right, so like with any type of like lean meat, chicken, beef, whatever, it's going to help slow that down. This way your blood sugar isn't spiking up so much. It's more of a gradual increase, but this way it allows you to keep your energy and not crash, an hour or two later.
So Tim here loves pasta. So is there a way to love pasta and not overeat it?
Yeah, of course.
How do you recommend having pasta for someone who loves pasta?
It all comes down to portion control and sizing, right? It's not a matter of what you
my
eat.
wife. She keeps telling me portion control.
yeah, because at the end of the day, man, it's not a matter of what you eat that's bad. It's anything in excess, right? So if you go into your meal with an understanding, like, okay, this is how much pasta I'm gonna eat, right? Because not like, man, I love pasta, and that's what I do. But I know, like, if I have like anything more than like 2 cups of pasta, like, it's gonna be too much for me. The calories add up too quick. Right. And so it's eating with intention. And that's what I tell my guys. It's like, you have to go into your meal with an intention of how much that you want to eat of that certain food, and if it's like a problem food for you, like that you tend to overeat in, like a pasta or like pizza, like me, you have to go in and eat with intention, right? And know your limits and be firm on your boundaries, right? Because once you do that, and it's up here, it's in your mind, right? It becomes a lot easier to stick to, rather than going into the meal just like, oh, I'm just going to have some pasta here. But then, you just keep eating because it tastes so good. Right. And then eating and eating and eating. So that's what I always say, man. Just like eat with intention and have a firm understanding of where your boundaries are going to be are. This way it inhibits you from overeating.
So the second part of your program, so there's nutrition and then there's working out. So you're saying people only need to work out 2 hours a week.
Yeah, so I'll give you the backstory on this one too.
Yeah.
So like I was the kid who was like, I did all those bodybuilding routines when I was first getting into fitness. Like, I was the kid in the gym like 2 hours a day, like 6-7 days a week. Like, I was doing weights for an hour and a half, cardio for a half hour, like killing like gym rat, quote unquote.
Oh yeah.
Right. And man, I'll be honest. Like, when I was in college, it was fine. Because I had a lot of free time. I had a lot of time to let my body recover. I slept all the time, right? But when I graduated college, and we talked about this before, then after that I went to sales, right? And now I was working all the time, and I was still training like that in the beginning, and like everything just went downhill for me. Like my energy tanked. Like I felt like a zombie at work. And like the way that I worked, selling insurance was picking up the phone, dialing prospects, closing deals over the phone, and I had no energy to do it. And so like it started impacting how much money I was making. I was like, I can't do this. And like not only that, but like my testosterone dropped, like my sex drive was like non-existent. So I was like, this is terrible. Like for a kid in his 20s, terrible. And so I was like, I need to find a new way to train. That's really how I came up with that entire model, the 2 hours a week. And so I realized, man, it's especially when you're training, right? And especially if you're like super crazy, super stressed out in like a sales position, when you're training a lot and training super intense, and you're coupling that stress that you're putting your body under from those crazy intense exercises with the stress from your life, your work, and all that stuff, and you mesh those together, it's a recipe for disaster, right? And so what I found for myself is, first and foremost, once we get our nutrition down, right? Because nutrition is going to be the biggest driver of your results, right? We make sure we're still training in a way that helps you build muscle, right? Okay. And I'll get into why that's extremely important. But once you can do that, you don't need to train for a long period of time, because and I'll give you a couple of problems that I see like with people who like train super hard and super long all the time, because that's what happened to me. Like the longer and more intense that you're working out for, the more of a demand your body has to place on recovery, right, and repairing itself. And so that means, less mental and less physical resources that you now have throughout your working day. Right. And so like me, like when I was in sales, like in sales, man, you need all the energy that you can get throughout the day. Right. So your workouts have to be designed in a way that are quick, that are effective, that gives you energy, right, rather than drains and takes away from it. That was the first problem that I saw. And then the second problem was that I noticed, man, the longer and more intense that you're working out for, the hungrier that you're going to get.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because, like, think about it, especially if like you're doing something crazy intense, like a long cardio session, right? Or like you're hitting the weights for a long period of time, you're burning all these calories, right? You're literally depleting your body of all of its energy stores, right? So what's going to happen, right? Your body is going to respond by crying out for you to refeed it with energy, right? With food. And man, it doesn't matter. Like the best workouts in the world can't save you, can't stick to your nutrition, right? And so the way that I've been designing my workouts is very quick, very effective, right? And I realized that I didn't need any more than 2 hours a week in order to train where I can still get really good results, because man, a lot of it's coming from nutrition.
So when you're saying 2 hours a week, is that 2 1-hour sessions or 3 40-minute sessions? How are you getting to the 2 hours?
Yeah, so like I said, I program for my guys on an individual basis. So it's kind of dependent on their schedule and how much time that they have. So I got some guys doing 3 days a week, 40 minutes a session, right? As they do 2 hours. I got guys on the other end of the spectrum, like super pressed on time, doing 6 days a week, 20 minutes a session, right? Also at 2 hours. But we're doing strength training, right? We're training in a way that's going to help build muscle. Right? I'll get why that's so important, right? You want to make sure that your training is done in a way that helps you build muscle, because the more muscle that you have, the faster your metabolism is going to be. Okay, and the faster your metabolism is, right, that means the more calories that you're going to burn at rest without any extra effort. That's the key, without having to work out more, right, because you have a faster metabolism, right? So let's say you want to lose 30 pounds. Over time, once you do lose those 30 pounds, that means the more that you can eat and keep the weight off, right, because your metabolism is a lot faster because you have more muscle, right? That's why you have to strength train. And that's why, I believe strength training and training in a way that helps you build muscle is the most effective long-term strategy when it comes to your workout.
So there's the eating, the nutrition, there's the working out, and I know we're going to talk about the accountability, but what about rest? How much rest, how much sleep does a person need? Because I've read that if you don't get enough sleep, your body doesn't, chill and relax, and you don't rebuild. So what should be, and I'm sure it's different by age, but what do you recommend as the right amount of sleep versus the 2 hours of working out?
Standard 7 to 8 hours, 7 to 8 hours a night.
Okay. And
because go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Tell us about 7 to 8 hours.
Yeah, I mean, especially from a scientific standpoint, that's what's been the most widely studied. From experience, like from myself and from working with my guys, I feel like that's like been the perfect range. Some guys can function off of less sleep, But from what I've noticed is the less sleep that you're getting, right, the less cognitively that you are there, right? And the harder that it is to make decisions, the more cravings that you have, so the easier it is to give in to any of those, binge eating, right? Any of those poor food choices that help you go a little overboard, right? So sleeping, man, it not only helps with the recovery, right? Especially if you're working out and you're doing resistance training, right? And you're breaking down your body, sleeping is going to help you repair and recover those muscles, but it's also going to help you stick to your nutrition.
Right. I can see that, and I guess the challenge a lot of people have is people are used to going on less sleep because they like to stay up late, but then they still got to get up in the morning. So this is truly a lifestyle change that you've got to get yourself to bed at a reasonable time. And if you do stay up late, you got to realize you're going to sleep later because otherwise you're not going to recover.
Yeah, or you just understand the ramifications of lower sleep.
Accountability portion of your program, is this where you get online and yell at people, or how does that work?
Yeah, so all my guys I work with one-on-one in an online setting, right? So they have access to me whenever they want it. Typically, we'll do like weekly calls, one-on-one check-ins, like video chat, just like you and me are having right now. And they have access to my cell phone, like whenever they need to reach out. And the reason why I place like such an importance on accountability is because, especially with a lot of the guys that I talk to, and I hear this a lot, especially from the pandemic, it's like, Dom, like I'm not really motivated to work out. I can't really seem to like work out at home. I can't really seem to discipline myself. I can't really seem to get the ball rolling, get myself moving forward. Right. And for most people, Sean, like I don't think that they need more motivation or more discipline per se.
Mm-hmm.
I just think they need some form of accountability. Because to me, man, like accountability is so essential for staying on track and creating like all these healthy habits. Right. Because if you think of like anything, like any new program or any new diet that you go on, it's probably easy at the start, right? For the first couple of weeks, because your motivation is at its peak, right? It's always at its highest point anytime you start something new, right? But like, like what happens over time, right? Motivation is always going to start tapering off.
Goes down.
It's not your fault, right? It's not anyone's fault. It's just human nature, right? So if you don't have an accountability measure put in place, well, what happens to most people? They just fall off. They fall off track, right? And they don't stick to their routine, and therefore they never create that habit, that healthy habit that's going to help design long-lasting change for them.
So in your program, you call it the Leo Wolf program. You're Dom Ricci. Who is Leo Wolf?
Well, Leo Wolf's just the name of the system, man. And so we talked about this before, man. Like, so when I was a kid growing up, like my two favorite animals were the lion and the wolf, right? And like I was a kid who came from like a lot of anxiety, a lot of self-consciousness, like was never really comfortable about the way that I saw myself, the way that I perceived myself, my own body, right? And so like for whatever reason, man, I was always drawn to the lion and the wolf, right? Just the lion, the confidence, the ultra confidence that the lion has, the leader of the pack, right? And then the lone wolf, just being unafraid to go out their own separate way, right? Being unafraid to stand out from the pack. And so I kind of merged those two together. I told you before, it was actually a tattoo idea that I had for myself that I wanted to get tattooed on myself. But when I started this business, I was like, I felt so aligned with that and with the process. And a lot of the guys that I speak with too, it's like, especially if you're overweight and you're feeling uncomfortable, you're feeling self-conscious about your body, it's just aligning to that, helping you gain and generate that confidence, being unafraid to stand out from the pack and becoming what I call a Leo Wolf.
So when someone is first starting out and, let's say they're 50 pounds overweight. We'll just pick a number, and it's difficult to say what is 50 pounds because the BMI. I don't subscribe to the BMI. You and I have talked about it. Because if people have any kind of muscle mass whatsoever, they're considered obese on the BMI very quickly. What's the first thing people should be doing? Let's say they're, like I said, 50 pounds overweight. They call you up. You guys come to terms, you explain what it's going to cost. They're like, yeah, I'm all in. So are they in for 90 days? Is your program 30 days, 90 days, 6 months? How does it work?
Typically 4 months is the duration.
Okay.
4 months, like, I have guys who have like more longer term goals. Like if they need to lose closer to 100 pounds, like we'll do it for longer, obviously. But 4 months for me, from my perspective, is enough time for me to teach someone everything that they need to know. And so that's why 4 months is typically the standard. I got some guys who, they only need like 10 pounds to lose. So we'll do it a little less. But some guys who have more to lose, right? Over 50 pounds, that maybe we need to draw it out for longer. but 4 months is typically the standard.
So you're saying someone can lose 25 pounds in 4 months?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty aggressive. I mean, that's like, what, 6 pounds a month? That's 1.5 pounds a weekish. So I guess it's not that aggressive.
Yeah, it's not. No, there are people who take much more aggressive approaches, like trying to lose 5 pounds a week. To me, if you're anywhere in between the range of 1 to 2 pounds a week, I think you can do it in a very healthy and a very safe way, and in a very sustainable way that'll help you keep it off. Anything more than that, anything more than 2 pounds a week, I think it gets like a little unhealthier. And the faster that you go, man, what I always say, the harder that is to keep off.
Okay, and why is that?
Because the more of an extreme approach that you have to take, right? You either have to be eating a lot less than you are right now, or you either have to be working out like crazy, right? And so if you're on any of those extremes, it becomes a lot harder to actually stick to for a long period of time.
So do you find that most people have a problem with nutrition because they either, which is more prevalent? They eat too much, or they're eating the wrong stuff, or both? Both at the same time.
Yeah.
They like cake and a lot of it.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing, man. Like nutrition, it's not really something that anyone's really like taught how to do, right? It's like it's not really in our school system. Like no one's really taught how to actually design their nutrition in a way that's going to help them, be healthier, help them lose weight, right? And so it's not only the overeating, but it's like also just not really knowing how to structure it, right? Not really knowing what to eat, not really knowing how to portion their meals or what to put in their meals.
So is the whole thing that we've heard that like a piece of meat shouldn't be bigger than the palm of your hand? Is that like a relative thing, and that you should be able to, right, scoop up all the greens you need and put them on your plate?
Well, I mean, of course it's relative. Like you got to think like the palm of a hand, like the palm of a baby, or the palm of like the Kempe Mutombo, right? Like they're going to be a lot different. So.
Yeah, for people who've got smaller hands, it's like, wait a minute, that's no food. I need more to eat. Okay, so who do you normally work with? Who should be reaching out to you?
If you're, I mean, my typical demographic is anyone in sales, business owners, right? People who live very stressful lives and very time-consuming lives, right? You don't feel like you have a lot of time, especially with what your schedule looks like. Especially if you have crazy work hours. You got a lot of time that you got to spend with the kids. Don't really know how to implement your workouts into your daily routine. That's what I work with.
Cool. All right. So we've reached the point of the wait. Hold on. I think this is kind of a joke. I've heard never eat anything bigger than your head. That'd be a big piece of beef, Bruce. That'd be a very large.
Yeah, that would be huge.
That's pretty large. So porterhouse steak. I don't think it's bigger than your head, but it's definitely large. So we're here in the final two minutes where my guests talk about and tell people something for them to take away with them, to have them remember them, to make an impression. So what impression do you want to leave on everyone, Dom?
Look, guys, if you want to be a Leo Wolf, reach out to me via social media, right? Whether it's Facebook or Instagram. What I'll do for anyone who comes through the show, to say you came through Sean, you say you saw us on here, I'll personalize a video for you. We'll talk, given your whatever your current situation is. I'll personalize a video for you of what your next step should be going forward.
So there you go, folks. When you reach out to Dom, tell him you saw him here on Litvak Leadership. Reach him on either Facebook or Instagram, and he will give you some additional video, some additional personalization, and he'll help you out. So, Dom, thank you so much for being my guest today.
You got it, Sean. It was awesome, man.
I think that this was a revealing discussion. I've discovered what my wife has been telling me is actually true. At least you agree with her, but I think I knew it already too. So it's good to know. And I want to encourage everyone. The holidays are here. Don't put on more weight than you've already put on. Be healthy. Eat smart. Because the New Year's are around the corner. That's it today for Litvak Leadership. Everyone have a great day. Be blessed.
See you guys.